Every year, hundreds of millions of people willingly walk into a furniture store designed like a maze. They follow arrows on the floor. They pass through fake apartments. They sit on couches they never planned to buy. They eat Swedish meatballs. And somewhere along the way, they spend more money than they intended. Nobody forced them to do any of this. They came back the following year and did it again. IKEA is not just a furniture store. It is one of the strangest, most counterintuitive business experiments in human history. A company that convinced the entire world to do its own labor, drive its own products home, and assemble its own furniture with a tiny wrench that always seems to be missing one piece. And not only did people accept this deal, they loved it. So how does that happen? How does a company built on inconvenience become one of the most beloved brands on the planet? The answer starts in a place you would never expect, a small farm in rural Sweden in 1926, where a boy named Ingvar Kamprad was born into a family that had almost nothing. Kamprad was not a genius in the traditional sense. He was not an engineer or a designer. He was a salesman, almost from birth. At 5 years old, he was buying matches in bulk from Stockholm and selling them individually to his neighbors for a profit. By 10, he had expanded into fish, Christmas decorations, and pencils. By 17, his father gave him a small amount of money as a reward for good grades, and Kamprad used it to register a business. He called it IKEA, a combination of his initials and the names of the farm and village where he grew up. In the beginning, IKEA sold almost everything: pens, wallets, picture frames, watches, jewelry. It was essentially a mail-order catalog business in a country where most people lived far from any major city. But furniture was not even part of the plan yet. That came later, almost by accident. Here's the thing about furniture in the 1940s and 1950s. It was expensive, not just a little expensive. Furniture was a serious financial commitment, the kind of purchase that took months of saving. And the reason was simple. Every piece was built by hand, by craftsmen, in workshops, and then shipped fully assembled to stores. The cost of making it, storing it, and moving it was enormous, and that cost was passed directly to the customer. Most working families in Europe could not afford to properly furnish their homes. They made do with what they had, inherited what they could, and waited years to replace anything that broke. Furniture was not something you bought casually. It was something you saved for. Kamprad saw this and asked a question that nobody else in the industry was asking. What if furniture did not have to cost that much? The breakthrough did not come from a design studio or a corporate strategy meeting. It came from a parking lot. In 1956, one of IKEA's employees, a man named Gillis Lundgren, was trying to fit a table into a car to photograph it for a catalog. The table would not fit. So Lundgren did something practical. He removed the legs, and then he looked at the flat tabletop sitting in the trunk and thought, what if we just sold it like this? That single moment changed everything. Flat pack furniture meant that a product which once required a truck to deliver could now fit in the back of a family car. It meant that a warehouse which once held 50 assembled tables could now hold 500. It meant that the cost of shipping, storing, and handling furniture dropped so dramatically that IKEA could price its products at a fraction of what competitors charged. But here is the part that sounds like it should have killed the idea. IKEA was essentially asking customers to do the work that factories and delivery crews used to do. They were asking people to carry the box, drive it home, open it, read the instructions, and build the thing themselves. By any normal business logic, that should have been a deal breaker. Instead, it became the product. Because when you build something yourself, something strange happens in your brain. Psychologists call it the IKEA effect. Studies have shown that people place significantly higher value on things they have assembled with their own hands, even when the quality is objectively the same as something pre-built. The effort creates attachment. The struggle creates ownership. You are not just buying a bookshelf, you are building your bookshelf. And that changes how you feel about it entirely. Kamprad understood this intuitively before the research existed to explain it. He understood that price alone was not enough. The customer had to feel like they were getting something more than a cheap product. They had to feel like they were participating in something. And then there is the store itself. Walk into any IKEA in the world, and you will notice something immediately. There is only one way through. The path is designed so that you move through every single department before you reach the exit. Living rooms, bedrooms, kitchens, bathrooms, children's sections, lighting, storage, textiles. You will see all of it, whether you came for a lamp or a sofa. This is not an accident. It is one of the most carefully engineered retail environments ever built. The layout is based on a concept called the forced path, and it works because of a simple truth about human psychology. psychology. The more you see, the more you want. Things you did not know you needed suddenly seem essential once you are standing in front of them in a beautifully staged room. IKEA does not just sell products, it sells a vision of a life. Every room in the store is a complete scene, styled and lit to make you imagine yourself living inside it. The throw blanket on the couch, the candles on the coffee table, the perfectly placed books on the shelf. None of it is accidental. Every detail is designed to make you feel like your home could look like this, and that the only thing standing between you and that life is a few flat boxes and an afternoon. And then there are the meatballs. IKEA restaurants serve over 1 billion meatballs every year. That is not a side business. That is a strategy. Research has shown that customers who eat at IKEA spend significantly more money than those who do not. A full stomach makes you more relaxed. A relaxed customer is a more generous customer. The restaurant is not there because Kamprad loved Swedish food. It is there because hungry people leave early. By the 1960s and 1970s, IKEA was expanding across Europe. And here is where the story gets genuinely strange. Because IKEA did not enter new markets the way most companies do. It did not study local tastes and adapt its products to match. It brought Sweden with it. The stores looked the same in Germany as they did in Sweden. The product names stayed in Swedish, impossible to pronounce in almost every language on earth. The food in the cafeteria was Swedish. The colors were Swedish. The entire experience was unmistakably, unapologetically Swedish. And somehow, that became part of the appeal. In a world where every brand was trying to blend in, IKEA stood out by refusing to. The Swedish identity was not a limitation. It was a brand. It communicated something specific, that this company came from somewhere, that it had a point of view, that it was not just another generic retailer trying to be everything to everyone. By the time IKEA reached the United States in 1985, it had already conquered most of Europe. But America presented a new problem. Americans had bigger homes, different tastes, and a deep cultural resistance to assembling their own furniture. The first stores struggled. Products were too small for American rooms. Beds did not fit American sheets. Glasses were too tiny for American portions of soda. IKEA adapted, not by abandoning its identity, but by quietly adjusting the dimensions. Bigger beds, larger glasses, deeper sofas. The Swedish soul stayed intact. The measurements changed. Today, IKEA operates in over 60 countries. It is one of the largest furniture companies in the world. It publishes a catalog that for decades was printed in more copies than the Bible. It has its own food brand, its own bank, its own foundation, and a corporate structure so deliberately complicated that even tax experts struggle to fully map it. But none of that explains the real secret. The real secret is that IKEA never actually sold furniture. What it sold was the idea that ordinary people deserved beautiful homes. That good design did not have to be reserved for the wealthy. That a young couple in a small apartment with almost no money could still live somewhere that felt intentional, considered, and theirs. Every competitor IKEA ever had was selling a product. IKEA was selling a belief. And that is why people follow the arrows on the floor. That is why they eat the meatballs. That is why they carry the flat boxes to their cars, spend 3 hours on the floor with an instruction sheet and a tiny wrench, and feel genuinely satisfied when it is done. IKEA did not take over the world by making furniture cheaper. It took over the world by making people feel something when they bought it. It reinvented the factory, the store, the delivery system, and the customer's role in all of it. And somewhere in that reinvention, it changed what people believed furniture could be and what they believed they deserved. That is not a business strategy. That is something much harder to copy.